Happy Friday. This is my personal development journal for 15th November 2019. You don't actually realise how much knowledge you consume within a week until you start writing things down to do one of these journals. There's so much out there and so much that you take in. So I'm just going to rattle through some of the highlights. So this week, as planned, I studied for my MB 230 Dynamics 365 for customer service exam. Here's a tip that I've been using for the last few exams. I've been using the Edge read aloud function. So when I'm going through the EDX coursework or the Microsoft Learn stuff, rather than glaring at the screen, because sometimes that hurts your eyes and tires your eyes out, I put on Edge read aloud function, let that read to me. You can change the speed, so I speed it up a wee bit more, and then when it gets to a bit that you want to dive a bit deeper in, I jump into a Dynamics 365 environment and hit pause on the Edge narration and start studying a wee bit in the environment, try and understand the concept a wee bit more. I also looked at the skills measured for the MB 600 exam. That looks like a really good exam. It seems to cover a lot of consultancy best practices, so that's what I'm really interested in. There's a whole section on performing fit gap analysis and estimating migration efforts, so that looks quite exciting. I'm quite excited to see what the courseware for that's like. I've also continued with my AI and machine learning. That's a bit of a drag at the moment, I'll be honest. I'm just going through a lot of stuff about legislation and GDPR, and it's not great fun, but you have to understand the basics before you can start building solutions properly, don't you? A highlight of this week, I've started reading a book called Remote, No Office Required. That's all about the benefits of working remotely, and I've only done the first few chapters, but it ticks all my boxes. It's all about pursuing your passions while you're still working, rather than waiting to retire to start pursuing your passions. That's really good because I'm still trying to get that work-life balance there. Being a skydiver in Scotland, we don't get the opportunity for that for good weather. So when it does come, when I'm sitting in the office looking at the sky, it's heartbreaking. So next week it's going to be all about Canvas apps. I do a series on YouTube of me as a Dynamics 365 consultant, traditionally learning Canvas apps from that point of view, from a CDS, Dynamics 365 consultant point of view, and documenting that as I go. I've also got another wee kind of project that I've about to start. It's a bit more fun, and it's a bit Canvas apps and some AI builder in there. So I'm hoping to start on that this week. So hopefully in the next few weeks you'll see a bit of that. The most important things I learned this week. This was on the Power Addicts call on Tuesday night. There was just a few really key takeaways for me from that kind of struck a chord. There was one thing that Keith Watling said about people in the community and how it's about the people not in the community. It's not about the people in the community, it's about the people not in the community yet. And that really struck a chord with me. And Donna Sacre was also on there, and she was giving some of her takeaways from Ignite, and she was saying how there are 3 categories of citizen developer. There's the ones who know they're a citizen developer, the ones who are citizen developers but they don't know it yet, and there's the pro devs. And the reason that's the most important things I've learned this week is that as a new content creator, I'm quite new at this, those are quite good to keep in mind when I'm creating and publishing and sharing my content. So when I do a new piece of work, I'm going to say, does this speak to the citizen developers who know they're citizen developers? Does this speak to the people who don't know they're citizen developers? Does it speak to the pro devs? And also, what does it do to try and get people who are not in the community into the community? So that's just quite important. And if I can think about that for every piece of kind of content that I create and share, then that'll help everybody. So that was a big takeaway from that hour call. So thanks for that, Donna and Keith and the rest of the Power Addicts. And that's all from me for this week. I will see you next week for another video. Bye.